And if any of you are lucky enough to have a bolster or a big pillow, sometimes placing that underneath the back of the knees is a nice way to just allow the weight of the body to sink to the floor, but it still gives you that little natural hip tilt that can help to take the pressure off the lower back. Think about the space that you occupy as you release the weight of your body into the floor. Allow the wide muscles of the back to fully soften and release. Unclench the buttocks. Soften the space between the shoulders. Feel the back of the head ease a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. And we'll bring our awareness to the shape that we make at the back of the neck. So you might feel you can lengthen that space at the back of the neck by gently nodding the chin towards the chest. And just bringing the neck back to a neutral position. Unclench the jaw. Soften the temples. Relax the tongue in the well of the mouth. And bring your awareness to the breath. Notice without judgment the natural pace and rhythm of your breath. And if you've been dashing around this morning, or if you're mindful that you have a to-do list that you need to tick off later today, then give yourself permission to just push that to-do list to one side. Set yourself a positive intention that for the next hour, it's all about you. Focusing on the body, on the breath. And bringing around that sense of union with the body and the breath. Deepening the inhale. Lengthening the exhale. Remaining aware of how you rest against the floor. Aware of the space that surrounds you. With each deeper inhalation, expanding and widening to fill that space. With each full exhalation, resting the weight of your weary bones into the earth. Let your body take some rest here. Invite your mind to quiet here. Bring your full awareness to the rhythm of the breath. Feeling that deep breath in, that long breath out. So to maintain our focus a little longer on the breath, I want you to come to the idea of counting in for the length of 3 breaths, or 3 counts, should I say. Holding the breath for 4, then breathing out to a count of 5. Breathing in for 3, holding for 4 counts, then exhaling to a count of 5. Maintain that deep and lengthened breath. Keep returning to that pace of breath. Inhaling deeply to a count of 3, filling the lungs completely. Retaining the breath, feeling that expansion through the back of the ribcage. Then as you exhale for that lengthened out breath of 5, feeling the rib cage and the belly soften and release. Let's repeat this breath rotation, starting to make each out breath a little noisier now. Breathing in through the nose for a count of 3, retaining the breath for 4, then making that exhale more of an audible sigh. Breathing in for 3, holding the breath for 4, then that lengthened audible sigh. Let's do one more full breath rotation. That full exhalation. Then as you come to the end of your next breath in, rather than hold the breath, just let that breath go again. Start to bring the breath back to balance. Equal length to the inhale, to the exhale. And as you return back to this natural, easy rhythm, no longer controlling the breath, bring your awareness back again to the physical body. Take a moment to scan the body from head to toe and just notice that release. The fingers soft, the feet heavy and released, the jaw soft, the temples relaxed and released. Now we'll start to return sensation to the body here. Wiggling fingers, wiggling toes, wriggle the jaw a little, wriggle the nose. If you have your knees bent for now, take a moment to just extend the legs along the mat. If you have a pillow under the knees, just pop it to one side. And we'll just allow that space in the lower back to once more widen. That natural lift in the lower back, that spreading through the flats of the shoulder blades. Then inhale to lift both arms overhead and take a long stretch through the body, pointing through fingers and toes. Exhaling to draw the right knee in towards the chest, placing the hand either to the back of the thigh or to the shin. If there's tightness in the knees, the back of the thigh is a nice alternative. Then inhale again, take another full body stretch. And exhale to hug the left knee in, again modifying as you need for comfort. Take another lengthened full body stretch. Now bring the thumbs together in an interlock. This time on the out breath, draw the toes up towards the ceiling, so we're putting the feet in flexion. Wide through the chest on the inhale. On the exhale, push the upper body to the right, deepening the stretch to the left of the waist and the rib cage. Inhaling now to come back to centre, another long stretch pointing through fingers and toes. Back to interlock, flexion with the feet as you exhale to the left side, opening out now to the right of the waist and the rib cage. Inhale again to return to centre, one further long stretch. Then on the out breath, draw both knees in. So again, either hands behind the thighs or hands to the shins, applying a little pressure to really roll that space in the lower back to the floor. Gently rock from one hip to the other, so you get a sense of lightly massaging over the sacrum, releasing any tension here. As you roll back to centre, replace both feet on the mat. We'll position the heels hip width apart, insides of the feet parallel, turning the palms up towards the ceiling. Draw the shoulder blades together. Exhale to draw the tummy button in. On an inhale, lift the arms overhead and rest the backs of the hands on the floor. So this might be a challenge if you're tight in the chest through the shoulders. So there may be a little bit of comfort to be had from bending the elbows, widening the arms. So we kind of get a sense that we're resting the weight of the shoulders all the way through the length of the arms into the floor. We'll pause for a few moments here just to allow for that space across the chest, through the side of the ribcage into the underarms, to fully release and relax. Now we'll reposition the hands as an interlock behind the back of the head. So almost as though you're cupping the back of the head into the hands, elbows wide. Again, the upper and lower arms rested to the floor. Now drawing the soles of the feet together and widening the knees. So we're keeping with this idea of opening through the chest, but now we're adding a little extra gravitational pull to open to the inner thighs, to soften the hips. And you might notice that that little lift in the lower back is a little more exaggerated in this posture. Just allow that lower back arch. Feel that connection through the flats of the shoulder blades, through the back of the hips. Every out breath, allowing the knees to release a little deeper, finding more space in the inner thighs and in and around the hips. On the next exhalation, draw the tummy button in, sliding the thighs towards one another. Repositioning the feet hip width apart, insides of the feet parallel. Then bring the hands back again either side of the hips. Palms turned up to the ceiling, shoulder blades together. Feel that connection under the soles of the feet as you inhale to push into the feet, lifting the bottom from the floor. So in this posture, it's quite a comfortable diagonal from the knee through the hip to the shoulder. Sometimes a little tightness in the hips means that the bottom feels as though it's a little closer to the floor. So we work with the breath, sending an inhalation to that space in the hip flexors, lifting the thighs a little higher. It helps to picture pressing the shins forward on the breath in, widening through the chest, and on the breath out, engaging the core. Now in this lifted position, take a moment to clench the buttocks tight. So we're switching on those glute muscles, the muscles in the bottom that we often leave quite slack in everyday use. Inhale to press the shins forward. Exhale, engage the core, squeeze the glutes a little tighter. Then inhale to lift the arms overhead again. So we're keeping the shoulders connected to the floor. We're resting the backs of the hands on the mat. Inhaling to press the shins forward, lift the thighs. Exhaling, engage the glutes, the core. Then bring those arms up and over again. Reposition the hands either side of the hips. Palms once more turned up to the ceiling. And you might need to take the hands a little wider to find the space for the wrists. On the next out breath, start at the space between the shoulder blades and gently roll down through the spine. Take your time to do this vertebra by vertebra. We're in no rush. Resting the weight of the lower body into that space at the back of the sacrum and just checking in that we can now switch off the glutes, relax the bottom. Keep that left knee bent, the sole of the foot to the floor as you inhale to lift and lengthen through the right leg. Take a moment to gently mobilise the ankle, inhaling to point the toe, exhaling to flex. Every time you flex the toe, you'll notice a deeper stretch to the back of the calf and sometimes into the hamstring muscle. Bring the foot to full flexion, push through the heel. We're trying to just iron out that bend in the knee, but we're taking it gently. Drawing the hips back to the floor, keeping the core engaged. So think of that out breath to draw the tummy button in, then float the heel down so that the thighs are level with one another. So we're kind of got the knees in the same plane. Use the big toe to draw 3 circles in towards the midline of the body. Then change direction, take those circles the opposite way. Lovely, nice, full range of movement. Now bring the foot to flexion again, keep that core engagement. We'll float the weight of the leg down to rest an inch from the floor. Now use the heel rather than the toe to draw 3 wide circles. So this activates inner and outer thigh. It mobilises the hip joint. We'll go again through both directions. Then rest the heel again an inch from the floor. Inhaling now to lift the arms overhead, pointing through the toes of the right foot, lengthening as you press through the fingers. Then on an out breath, we'll draw the knee in, we'll lift the chest up and we'll push the lower back to the floor. So it's kind of like doing a tummy crunch. Inhaling to lengthen, exhaling, crunching up towards the thigh. Inhaling to lengthen, exhaling to do the crunch. So oftentimes when we do this crunch posture, we kind of nod the chin to the chest, and that often puts a little tension in the back of the neck. So my suggestion is that you find a fixed point on the ceiling, keep the eyes trained on that point, and keep a nice distance between the chin and the chest. Out breath on the effort as you lift, in breath to release back. We'll do one more of these crunches. Then as we keep the chest lifted, bring the hands behind the thigh so we're maintaining that static contraction in the core. Then slowly roll the shoulders, the back of the head towards the mat. Lengthen the right leg, pushing the heel towards the ceiling. It will start to feel a little tight to the back of the thigh. If you feel you have a little more space, on an out breath, draw the thigh closer to the chest. Our intention here is to straighten that leg. As you inhale, you switch off that tension. As you exhale, you come back to that extreme stretch. Then on an out breath, bend the right knee, hug the knee to the chest, then replace that foot to the floor. Perfect. Hands rested again either side of the hips. Same sequence on the other side. So lifting and lengthening through the left leg, gently pointing and flexing, mobilising the ankle in a linear action. Bring that foot to flexion again, engage the core. So use that core engagement to float the heel down. Then use the big toe to draw 3 circles in towards the body. So because we use the toe, we're getting into the ankle joint and working it through a full range of movement. Bring that foot to flexion again, engage the core, float the heel down, resting the heel an inch from the mat. So again, we're using the sole of the foot, the heel, to draw 3 wide circles. You can feel that switches on and off the inner and outer thighs. As you change direction, try to keep the hips square so we're not rocking and rolling from one side to the other. Then rest that heel again an inch from the floor. Lift the arms overhead. Point through fingers and toes. Then resume that little crunch sequence. So an exhale to draw the tummy button in, lifting the chest, drawing the thigh in. Then inhaling to lengthen. Exhaling, crunching up. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, lengthen. We'll do 2 more of these crunches. Then we'll bring the hands again behind the thigh, that little interlock to hold us up, keep that static contraction. Keep the neck nice and soft, then gently roll down through the spine. Extend that left leg, push through the heel. Straight leg if we can muster it. Avoiding lifting the bottom from the floor, so we're not pushing into the right foot, keeping the hips weighted, then gently guiding the thigh a little closer to the chest. Press through the heel. Then on and out breath, bend the knee, hug the knee in, and replace that foot to the floor. Nice. So I'm now just going to take a little bit more space around the hips and into the pelvis. So bring both knees in towards the chest, and then we'll take the hands to the inside of those knees, taking hold of either the feet or the big toes, wherever you can comfortably reach. Might be that you're holding the ankles. So we're in quite a squat position here. The knees are drawn in, the heels are drawn tight. I want you to stay in almost a straight line, pushing the heels up towards the ceiling, avoiding, if you can, taking the legs wide. So let's really feel this on the back of the thighs to begin with. Let the bottom remain weighted to the floor, pressing through the heels. Then on the next out breath, separate the feet and we transfer that stretch to the inner thigh. Keep the head rested back, pressing through the heels, softening the shoulders back to the floor. Keeping that core engagement. We can allow a little softness in the knees, tiny little bend, just to give us enough space to roll to the right. Keep hold of the toes, roll yourself back through centre and roll to the left. So we're kind of using the hands on the feet to challenge the core, to get a little bit of inertia going, to roll from one side to the other. Then come back to centre. Let go of the toes, hug the knees towards the chest. With the hands either on the shins or behind the thighs, we'll draw a little figure of 8 shape. So we're kind of lifting the bottom up and off, rolling over that tight space at the back of the sacrum. Then returning again to centre and replacing the feet to the mat. Let's take a moment now to roll to one side. For those of you with low blood pressure, roll to the left. And we'll come up to a position. So I've kind of specifically worked the mobilization and all kind of warm up, if you like, for the salute to the sun, so that we're primarily doing some linear movements. We need that little bit of flexibility around the hip, and it all will become clear later. But for now, we're just going to focus on keeping that length in the spine, so lining up the back of the head to the tailbone. And remember, in a cross-leg position, it's all about personal comfort. So I like the heels drawn towards the groin, particularly if there's tension in the knees. A little wider position might be better. If having the knees bent is really uncomfortable, you can always go to wide leg. So there's plenty of options and alternatives. Don't sit there in pain thinking I can't sit up straight. So let's extend the right hand away, pressing that palm to the mat, bringing the gaze up to the middle finger of the left hand. You kind of want to feel as though there's a push and pull action happening here. So you're pulling away to that left hand, you're pushing into the right hand, and we're getting a deeper stretch through the back of the rib cage. Now gently let that right elbow come in towards the waist. Keep looking up to the middle finger of the left hand, come over the midline of the body. We're deepening the stretch to the side of the rib cage, and you might notice a little compression to the right of the waist. Inhale to lift and come back to centre. Let's widen again to the opposite side. So we'll get that push and pull action so that we feel as though we're being stretched. Then bring that left elbow in as the right arm comes over the top. Perfect. You'll notice when you bring that left elbow in, it kind of supports your shoulder better, so you're not pushing into that space. Inhale to lift and come back to centre. Position the right hand behind the hip. Bring the left hand in front of that right knee. Again, a moment to re-lengthen, lifting out of the sit bones, following the rib cage, turning the gaze towards the back of the room. Let's keep that space around the heart nice and wide open. So push down into the palms of the hands on an inhale. On an exhale, lift the arms up overhead. So core is engaged, shoulders released, wide through the chest. On the next out breath, opposite hand to opposite knee. On the in-breath, lift out of the sit bones. On the exhale, follow the rib cage, turning the gaze towards the back of the room. And if you're feeling it in the neck, just bring your gaze a little further forward and visualize isolating the rib cage, taking that a little deeper into this twist. On the next out breath, release and bring your gaze forward, repositioning the hands in front of the ankles. So again, this is one that's very much about your own personal range of movement. My preference is to only take the hands so far, then lower the elbows towards the floor. Ideally, we don't want to feel as though we're lifting the shoulders or lifting the bottom from the mat. It's about finding a little space in the inner thigh and working within your range of movement in and around the hips. Shoulder blades drawn together, pressing into the palms of the hands, inhaling to lift the chest, then walking the hands back towards the ankles. Reposition both hands behind the hips. So it's very easy here to lean into the hands. Let's try to remain lifted out the sit bone. So in my case, it's just fingertips touching. Shoulder blades drawn together, lifting the sternum, turning the gaze up towards the ceiling. Opening that heart space, then engaging the core, bringing that gaze forward. Using the hands just to switch that leg crossover. So opposite foot in front or behind. Remembering that if you need that prop on one side, not the other, you can sit on a block, you can sit on a cushion, if that helps with the hips or the knees. Now extend both arms forward. You want to feel as though you're pushing the hands as far away from the shoulders as you can, but we want to keep drawing the shoulder blades together. So again, it's that push and pull action. Bring the palms together. We'll stack left forefinger to the top and open the hands towards the heart. On an out breath, draw the tummy button in and we feel as though we're curving the spine, nodding the chin to the chest, rocking onto the tailbone, expanding that space across the lower back. Then inhaling to lift back to center. Wide through the chest, turn the hands inside out. Inhale now to lift the arms overhead. Press through the palms of the hands, soften the shoulders down away from the ears. We'll stay in this nice open position as we just gently turn the head over the right shoulder. Bring the gaze back to center, then turn the head over the left shoulder. Bringing the gaze back again to center. Exhaling to engage the core, keeping that lift and length in the spine as we float the hands back to chest level. Turn the hands the opposite way, then bring them behind the lower back. Let's do right forefinger to the top, shoulder blades drawn together. So we want to keep that straight line from the back of the head to the tailbone, then lift the arms away from the lower back. Think about the chin being parallel to the floor. So if the chin's pushing up towards the ceiling, just bring that neck back to neutral. On an out breath, release. Bring the hands back to the lower back. Then separate the hands. A little bit of mobilization for the wrists now. Drawing little circles. It's a bit like a belly dancing technique. The shoulders are going. The head's going. And we're bringing it all the way up overhead. And then on the way back down, a little bit of jazz hands, razzle dazzle them and just flick the hands. I love that. And don't worry about the bingo wings. You'd forgotten about them, hadn't you? So just rest the hands down by your side. Okay, so we're going to come out of the cross-leg position. For a moment, I'm just going to get you into an all-fours position. So make any modifications you need if knees need to be supported. We'll bring the wrists under the shoulders, the knees under the hips. We did this seated in this cross leg position, so now that we're back in the linear position, I again want to just release the lower back. So exhale, draw the tummy button in, roll up through the spine, nod the chin to the chest and tuck the tailbone under. Nice and long release through the spine. Now bring the feet to rest on top of the feet on the mat. Then inhale to lift the chest forward. So that curve in the spine goes the opposite way. Exhaling again to roll up. Nice and long through the spine. Then inhaling once more to lift the chest forward. We've all got one direction that we prefer. We usually avoid the opposite. Come back to a neutral spine position and we'll walk both hands forward, pressing the palms to the mat so that we can lean back, pushing the sit bones to the heels, lowering the ears down to the space between the upper arms. A little space now into the underside of the armpits, the upper arms, lifting the fingertips, pressing the wrists to the floor. Then lowering down onto the elbows, sliding the chest forward. So we'll keep the forearms connected to the floor, shoulder blades drawn together. Try not to completely lift or lower the lower back. So feel that the thighs pressing to the mat, shoulder blades drawn together. Turn your gaze over one shoulder. Then inhale to look forward. Exhale over the other shoulder. Inhale again to look forward. Then we'll lower the chest, the forehead to the floor. Reposition the hands either side of the chest. At this point, we want to draw the elbows in, push into the palms, and inhale to lift the chest. So again, think about the back of the neck. If we lift the chin, we'll put tension here. So keep the gaze nice and soft. Then on and out breath, release back. Come again into that child's pose. And I'll remind you that we all make a very different shape in child's pose. You make the one that you need. It gives you release where you need it. So maybe through the shoulders, maybe into the lower back. Then come back up into an all fours position. Perfect. Now, what I've said is that we're going to do a salute to the sun, and there's different variations on the salute to the sun. I'm going to teach you 2 different types today. Bizarrely, I'm going to go with the one that's a little bit more advanced first, because Denise is like, great, thanks for that. So we're going to go for the one that's a little bit more challenging, shall we say, first, because that's the one that you might have to think about more to get in and out of position. So the salute to the sun, it's a flow. So all of the actions follow one and the other. We tend to do a posture and hold it and then move on to the next posture. So it will feel very different to what we normally do. But what you'll like about it is it really works the energy through the body. So rather than just concentrating on one part of the body, it becomes a whole body experience. So I'm going to start by showing you some of the transition bits that we will need to know. So the first one that I'll show you is, we all know how to do plank. So we'll come to a plank position. And I'll show you that when we do this plank posture, I offer 2 alternatives to come onto the next stage of the sequence. So the first one I call knees, chest, chin. So we lower the knees down, then we bring the chest and the chin down, and you'll see that the bottom is up. It's quite exaggerated. It's like a big caterpillar shape. Then we transition into cobra, so we lift the chest. So that's why it's really useful to make sure the bottom is up, that the chest is down, because then it gives you the pivot to be able to lift and do the opposite action. So let's just try that one again. This is the easier version of coming out of plank. So we lower down, knees, chest, chin. The elbows are into the rib cage, the bottom is up. Then we inhale to lift the chest. Perfect. Looking good. Then we'll just come out of that into child's pose just to stretch the lower back. And for those of you who might be a little stronger in the upper body, I'll offer you the second alternative. The second alternative takes a bit of strength, so think about it before you do it because you don't want a face plant. So we'll come back into plank, and then when we're coming out of plank, rather than using the knees to lower us down, we keep the knees lifted, we bring the elbows back, and it's almost like we're holding the side of the rib cage, then inhaling up. So give that one a go, see how you feel. It's a bit like doing a press up and holding it. It's hard, not gonna lie. So let's see you come out of plank and choose the version that you prefer. Nice, good effort. Beautiful, we're getting it. Definitely getting it. Or carpet surfing. I'm not even going to call you out on that. You know who you are. Brilliant. So that's the first little transition. So we've gone from plank onto knees, chest, chin, then inhaling to lift the chest. Then we come out of this cobra going into a downward facing dog. So we'll do a rough down dog. We won't do a really expansive one. So it's okay if the knees are lifted, if the heels are lifted and the knees are bent. And we'll just pedal one foot then the other, pushing the heels to the floor. So we're lengthening the back of the thighs, finding a little space, then coming up into a more comfortable down dog position. Beautiful. So I'll let you lower down for a moment. Come into child's pose to rest the head. And then when you're done with your child's pose, why will I never remember that I've got my heating on full blast when I teach this class? And I'm right next to the radiator. That's better. You don't want to be doing a sun salutation with your heating up full blast. So if you're happy now to come out of your child's pose either into hero or a seated posture, I'll show you the shape that we make coming out of that downward facing dog. So we're in down dog, then we want to bring the right leg forward. I always use my hand to guide the thigh, placing the heel under the knee is under the shoulder, and then we lower that back shin down and lift up. I will show you again, so don't worry, we won't rush it. One of the common things that happens when we're in this posture is your brain goes, I'm moving forward, so I'll drop everything down. And as soon as you drop everything down, that leg will get stuck and you can't get it forward. So my tip is to keep the hips lifted, keep the bottom in the air, bring the foot forward, and then it's a lot more comfortable. Not everyone uses a hand. Some people just strike the foot forward. I find that quite challenging myself, but it is possible to just walk the foot forward and come into the lunge. Nice, good, brilliant, fantastic. Ace. Better on that side, Jane, because your knee's at a better angle. So all I would say when you're comfortable to look is be careful when you bring that foot forward. There is a temptation to kind of stop short and you end up on the ball of the foot with the knee riding forward. That's not going to be great for the knee joints. So when you come out of the down dog, bring that foot as far forward as you can so that we make a 90-degree angle. Much more stable. Beautiful. So I did warn you that this is the more challenging version first. I'll let you do the hard stuff and then I know you've done it. Perfect. Then, so if we imagine that we've come into our lunge, to come out of the lunge, we turn the back toe under and we walk the foot forward. Now, I've got really tight hamstrings, so you'll notice in this posture, I've always got a bend in my knees. It should really be here, but that just isn't joyful for me. So I'm here. Then we bring the arms wide, and it's almost as though you're lifting the belly up off the thighs. So there's no rolling through the spine. We unhinge. Perfect. Then lift the arms up, then bring the hands back to heart. You've pretty much just done your first sun salutation. Whoop, whoop. Check you out. Good job. So I'm now going to break it down and I'm going to do a much slower version, which I think will suit better for those of you who particularly have limitations with knees or any issues with wrists, because the salute to the sun, because it's quite a flowing sequence, can get quite challenging. So instead of doing the standing version, the alternative is that we come to an all fours position. So we've been stood up, we've come down, we've come to our all fours position. Instead of going into the plank, we simply lower down onto the elbows. Then we lift up into that nice, comfortable Sphinx pose. Instead of doing the downward facing dog, we push back into the child's pose. And remember, the child's pose can be up here. The heels don't need to be, the bottom doesn't need to be on the heels. Then we come back into an all fours position again. And that lunge might be a little easier from the all fours position rather than bringing that foot forward in the down dog. Perfect. And then the same idea, we step forward and then we come wide, lift up, and hands to heart. Now, if there's any discomfort in the lower back when we're doing that unfold to lift up, your alternative here is to bring the hands to the thighs, roll up through the spine, and bring the head up last. So there's two different ways of doing it. That's the options. So I'll take you through the whole sequence. I'm going to do the floor-based one first, then we'll do the standing one. So anyone who particularly wants to stay with the floor-based one, just keep doing that. For those of you who want to do the standing one, then go to that. So come to the end of your mat, and it'll make sense when I tell you in a moment why it's important that we start at the front of the mat. Because we're travelling back a lot in this sequence, you will run out of space quickly. It's even worse in a class because you don't want to end up in someone's lap. At least in this way, you'll just end up tripping over a couch or something. So turn the palms to the front of the room, soften the knees. Inhale to lift the arms up overhead. I'll remind you, because I'm tight, I always have a little bend as we come forward and bring the hands to the floor. If you've got nice long hamstrings, straighten those legs. So then we'll just walk back into an all fours position. Take it nice and easy. Then out of your all fours, come down onto the elbows. Then walk back, lifting the chest into the Sphinx pose. I think it's easier to bring the chest down so that you can reposition the hands either side of the chest. Push back into the child's pose instead of downward facing dog. Then we'll come up and we'll make that lunge, bringing the right foot forward, hands to the chest. Then we'll hinge forward, bring the left foot forward. Again, bent knees or straight if you'd rather. Then widen the arms, unhinge, lift up, and then bring the hands back to heart. So that's one side. We need to do the same on the other side. So inhale, lift up. As you exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Take the left leg back, come down into that all fours position. Then lower down onto the elbows, lifting the chest up in the Sphinx pose. Lowering down, bringing yourself back into the child's pose instead of down dog. Then lifting up, bringing the left leg forward. So the lunge on this side, then hinging, back toe under, stepping forward, widening the arms, lifting the chest, and looking up to the thumbs. And if you've done what I've done, you'll now be halfway back your mat rather than at the front of your mat. So you might want to step forward again. It's important to remember. So what I would say is, if the timing of that and if the transitioning between the actions of that were enough for you, then stick with that version and just modify where you feel, do you know what, I'm just going to stay longer in child's pose. That's fine. I'm going to show you the standing version now. And again, I'll take it nice and slow. So, lifting the arms up on the inhale, on the exhale, hinging, bringing the palms to the floor. Instead of doing the all fours position, we're going to take the right foot back, lift the chest forward. So we're having a lunge, opening the right hip flexor. Then turning that back toe under, pushing back into plank. Remember, plank, the hips are low. Then lower down, knees, chest, chin, bottom is up. Inhale to lift the chest. Turn the toes under. Push up into the downward facing dog. We're starting with the right side, so we'll bring the right foot forward, lower down. Get that thigh stretch on the left side now. Then turn that back toe under. Step forward, widen the arms. Unhinge. Lift up, look up. And if you have mobility in your spine, you might want to lift the chest, a little lean back, then bring the hands back to heart. Perfect. So again, that's one side, so we'll do the other. So inhale, lift up, look up. Exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Left knee comes back, root the knee, open the chest. Turn that left toe under, push back into the plank. Then lower down, knees, chest, chin. Inhale to lift the chest. Turn the toes under, push up into down dog. Then bring the left leg forward, come into the lunge. Nice. Right leg forward, widen the arms, lift the chest, look to the thumbs, and bring the hand back to heart. Beautiful. You're all Sun Saluters now. So the first thing you'll notice when we do that sequence, because it all joins up, is it raises the heart rate. So if you're feeling a little bit out of breath, you're doing it right. You'll notice that when I say it, I always cue the breath. So I will say inhale up, exhale down. That's kind of to help you with the breath, because at no point in this do we want to hold the breath. We want to keep the breath moving. It's all about moving energy around the body. So let's do it again, one on each side. And so there's two things I'll say. The first thing is, it feels like a lot of pressure when you first learn it, that you've got to quickly move to the next transition. If you know that you feel unstable, don't rush, because you'll just knock yourself out and then you'll be really frustrated with yourself. So take your time with the breath. I'm going to do it the way that it should be done in terms of the breath timing. It's quite quick. So if you would just be more comfortable watching for one round, then do so, and then join back in when you're ready. So inhaling, palms open to the front of the room, lifting the arms up, then exhaling to hinge forward. Right leg back, inhale to open the chest, and exhale to push into plank. And inhale to open through the collarbones, and exhale to lower down, knees, chest, chin. And inhale to lift the chest. And exhale, engage the core, push up into down dog. Inhaling again because we're coming into the space, opening the chest. Exhaling because we're closing that space. Inhaling to lift up. Exhaling to lean back. Then bringing the hands back to heart. Nice deep breath in and out. Second side. Inhale, look up. Exhale, hinge, palms to the floor. Left leg back, lower the shin. Inhale, lift the chest forward. Engage the core. Exhaling back into plank. Inhaling when you get to that posture. On an out breath, lowering down, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, push up into the down dog. Bring the left foot forward, lower the shin. Lift the chest again. Right leg forward. Widen the arms, engage the core. Lift the chest. Look up. And bring the hands back to heart. So just take a moment here. Close the eyes wherever you are. You can bring your hands by your side. You can keep them in front of the heart. I just want you to close the eyes and tune into what's going on inside the body. So the breath's quite rapid, the heart rate's raised, and we know that in yoga we tend to work more with slow, controlled breath. So we just need a few moments of getting back on top of that curve. In breath, following out breath. Beautiful. Then when you're ready, just blinking the eyes open. Veronica, are you okay there? I can see you holding your back. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So that's quite intense. It kind of reminds you of when you used to do those aerobic routines in the 90s and you had to remember, I'm grapevining now, I'm doing this business now. And you get really confused with the steps. The sun salutation is once you know it, you know it. It's just that simple. So what I'll do is I will separately record the sequence of me just doing it so you can either watch it or practice alongside, because it's very, very difficult in a class scenario to really get your head into sun salutation because we all do it at different paces. So in your mountain pose now, I want you to bring your awareness back to the soles of the feet. Feel that you're really connecting through the soles of the feet and that you're bringing the weight through the heels, through the balls of the feet, spreading the instep, relaxing the toes. So we're really sinking into the floor. So now imagine that we're sending a root down from the sole of the left foot, and that's going to keep us connected to the earth. We don't want to fall into the trap of becoming too firm in that leg, so nice and soft on the left knee as you lift the right knee and bring the knee as high as the right hip. Underside of the foot parallel to the floor, using something to hold on to for balance if that will help. Bringing the hand to the ear sometimes helps, or bringing the hand in front of the heart. Then using that right big toe to draw 3 circles in, then take those 3 circles out. So it's really difficult to balance after you've done the salute to the sun, so good work. Now replace that foot to the floor. There's a little bit of gripiness on that left ankle where we perhaps grabbed hold with the toes. So we'll just gently come up to the ball of the foot, release it back down, just click through that ankle. Then imagine that you're sending that root now down through the sole of the right foot, softening the knee, lifting the left knee. I'll turn side on. So the knee is as high as the hip, the underside of the thigh parallel to the floor, the foot's in flexion, so the sole of the foot is parallel to the mat. Then rolling those little circles. And that's a nice modification. Holding the knee is a really nice one. I like that. You've taught me something new there. Then replace that foot to the floor. Lovely, perfect. So now we're going to do the tree pose, which is another balance pose. But when I say balance, it's more about the balance of focus rather than the balance of the body. So we'll start with the feet both connected to the floor, so there was no tendency to wobble over. Lift the right heel up, and we'll roll that right knee out, and we want to park the heel just above the left ankle. So you don't want to be on the joint, just a little bit north of that joint. Imagine that the hips and the shoulders are set in this space, so they are facing forward rather than following that knee that's bent. So hips and shoulders facing forward, roll that knee a little bit wider. And then if you feel confident to do so, you can slide that right foot up. I like to feel the instep cupping the edge of my calf muscle. And sometimes when we lift the knee, you can actually take it a little bit wider, so you can find a little more space in this inner thigh, but we're always returning to the hips and the shoulders facing forward. Again, hands are personal choice. They can either be here so that they're equally weighted, here so that we get that midline of energy. It's a good one for focus. Or taking the arms overhead That's the one you see in all the adverts. The only thing I would say is when I take my arms overhead, I feel like a tree that's blowing in the wind. So it's okay to blow. Just keep your balance. Then bring the hands back to heart. Turn the knee forward and replace the foot to the floor. Now, how many of you held your breath? That's what we do in balance poses. We hold the breath. So you're now like that. What's she asking us to do? So we kind of need to do the same idea on the other side, but this time, breathe. That would always be good. We always say in yoga, breathing's good. It's not optional. So let's bring the left heel now just directly above the right ankle. And again, we're going to set the hips forward, the shoulders forward. Then when we feel confident in our stance, that's the point at which you can slide the foot up. Now, there's almost a psychology that says, oh, I'll bring my foot to the knee, but that's a really bad place to place your foot because you're pushing the knee joint out, you're pushing the hip joint out. So we're either here, which is on the calf, below the knee joint, or you might want to try here, bringing the foot in front of the thigh. I find that really tricky when I've got slippy leggings on, you know, like lycra, because the foot just slips off. But it's an alternative that might suit you. It might feel more comfortable. And I'll stop rabbiting because tree's about balance. So find where your hands are going. Then bring your awareness back to the breath. So focus on that inhale, that exhale. Think about what's going on in the toes of the right foot. Are you clenching the toes to keep your balance? Spread the toes. And keep it nice and soft. Beautiful. Then roll that knee back to face forward and replace that foot to the floor. And just for good measure, in case we were tempted to hold the breath, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, knees are soft, just hinge forward into a 90-degree angle. Press the fingertips forward, push the sit bones towards the back of the room. Then we'll wrap the hands around the elbows. I need a little more bend in the knees as I bring the belly to the thighs, forearms parallel to the floor, chin tucked under, nice and long to the back of the neck. Not ideal if you get any pressure behind the eyes, if you suffer from migraines, but deeply delicious if you get a lot of tension across the back of the sacrum, into the SI joint, the IT band, or the lower back. Now bring the hands onto the thighs. Exhale, draw the tummy button in. Imagine that you're rolling up into a cat stretch. Then roll the shoulders back and down. Shrug the shoulders up towards the ears. On an out breath, release, let it go. Shrug the shoulders up. A little more control as you roll the shoulders back and down. Bring the hands behind the back, left forefinger over right, shoulder blades drawn together. So there's no room here for pushing the hips forward. We'll keep pressing the thighs back, the tailbone under, as we lift the arms away, just taking whatever space you can through the chest. Then on and out breath, release. Separate the hands. Take a deep breath in and a big noisy sigh out. Beautiful. Come back down onto the floor. So if you're happy in Shavasana pose, that's with the legs extended, then go for your life. If you'd prefer to bend the knees just to keep that little bit of support in the lower back, then take that posture. Now, what we've done today is quite challenging, not only for the body, but also for the mind. So be kind to yourself. Take a few minutes to kind of switch off that fight or flight mode. Really get a sense of allowing your body to become heavy again. Sinking the weight of your shoulders, back of your hips, the soles of your feet into the floor. Bring one hand to rest on the belly, the other hand to rest on the heart. And again, we're just going to take a few moments to tune into the breath. Our intention is always to use the full extent of the lungs, the rib cage, and then to empty the lungs completely. Sometimes that anxiety, tension, stress sticks itself to the inside of the ribs. So know that with each full exhalation, you're ridding yourself of that negative energy, almost as though you're cleansing from the inside out, leaving space for that positive energy, that prana. Inhaling deeply to the belly, the chest and the collarbones. Exhaling fully from the collarbones, the chest and the belly last. Feeling yourself expand and widen into this space again. And feeling the full weight of your body release to the earth. If you feel more comfortable now, to just lay the hands by your side. Allow the arms to become heavy again. And invite the mind to quiet. As you keep your focus on the breath, return your body to a state of deeper relaxation. Every out-breath, the letting go. Every in-breath, expanding and widening into the space that surrounds you. Exhaling to release your body of any toxins, any negative energy. Tuning in once more to the rhythm of your breath. Repeating that breath pattern that we did at the top of the class. Breathing in to a count of 3. Retaining the breath for a count of 4. Then exhaling to a count of 5. Maintain your awareness on that familiar rhythm. Rebuilding your strength, inviting healing from the inside. Simply enjoy the silence of this moment. A moment of gratitude for giving yourself this space, this time to reconnect with the body and the breath. and to commend yourself on your body allowing you to do extraordinary things. As you come to the end of the next full breath in, just proceed straight to the exhale. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, making the breath a little noisier. Returning your physical body to the space within this room. And gently returning sensation here. Wiggling fingers and toes. Wiggling the jaw and the nose. Then taking either a long stretch through the body, or if you prefer, hugging the knees to the chest. Then in your own time, rolling to the side that feels most welcoming to you. Taking your time here, blinking the eyes open, no rush. Then ready to return to a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honours the light in you. Namaste.